is it that when we hear the names Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, Hercules, we immediately think of fantasy, mythology, epic Hollywood stories? But when we hear the names Shango, Ogun, Yemoja, Amadioha, we think of something scary, evil, diabolical. No one has worse press than traditional African religion. Even making this video, I was very nervous. We can't talk about pre-colonial Nigeria if we don't talk about the spiritual beliefs that guided the culture, because what people believe shape their daily lives, their societal and political structures, and the way they interact with each other. So today we're going to talk about the demonization of pre-colonial spiritual beliefs. For many African societies, what the West called religion was simply a way of life. There was no split between the secular and the sacred. The Kenyan philosopher John Mbiti perfectly puts it: wherever the African is, there is his religion. So when colonialism arrived, it didn't just introduce a new religion, it introduced a new way of life. So the first way African spirituality was demonized was through language and propaganda. British newspapers and missionary reports began circulating sensational stories about the Dark Continent, and these stories and tales created a moral panic in Britain. Heathen, idol worship, juju, this is when those words began to be used. And one of the most damaging linguistic errors is the translation of the Yoruba deity Eshu and turning him into the devil in the Yoruba Bible. Language is so important because conflating one word with another has literally shaped how generations of Nigerians relate to that word and relate to their culture. The second way pre-colonial spiritual practices were demonized was through law. In 1903, the colonial government introduced the Nigerian Witchcraft Ordinance. It banned people from using anything that caused natural events, possessed objects, even the claim of supernatural knowledge was illegal. These laws made century-long spiritual practices a crime and a threat to public order. We can't talk about the demonization of Nigerian spiritual practices without talking about Nollywood. And it didn't just start with Kanayo Ukanayo. Nigeria's first silent film, called Palava, which came out in 1926, already had elements of demonizing traditional spiritual belief. Fast forward decades later, and this is the kind of imagery we see when it comes to African spiritual practices in Nollywood. The craziest thing is there's no difference between Zeus and Shango and Yemoja and Poseidon. Another thing that has to be mentioned is the social and economic benefits that came with converting to Christianity. Christian converts were given better paying job and they had closer proximity to the white man, which placed them in a better place societally. So the demonization of African spiritual beliefs was done intentionally through language, law, and culture.